So if I posted this video and if you looked at the title and if you know what day it is, then we're going to be having an adult ass discussion about grief. Why is that, you may ask? Well, I just don't have any other way to work through my problems than thinking through them, talking them out. And I don't have a solid way to do that. And so I can either pace in my apartment and just talk to nobody and nothing, or I can sit down and make a video. And I'm not making a video. Let's get that clear. I don't even know how much of this I'm going to cut out. I don't know how long this is going to be. I don't intend to make this therapy, but there is too much bouncing around inside my head for me to handle. Little fun fact. So, quick anatomy lesson. Fun fact, like I said. The sinuses, the sinus cavities going down kind of behind the tear ducts, in forensics and in like anthropology and stuff like that. One way they determine the anatomy of a skeleton, whether it's male or female, one way to determine that is the size of the cavity, not the cavity, the opening going into the from the tear overflow basically to the throat. And so what you'll find is that when men cry, generally you hear it in the throat first, because those reservoirs are larger, and so more tears end up kind of going down the sinus reservoir into the throat. And so you'll generally hear like men's voice crack more and stuff like that when they're getting emotional, whereas born females have a smaller canal for those tears to flow through, and so they generally have more tears externally. Yeah, can't imagine why I'm bringing that up. We're talking about grief, and I don't. What is there to say? I mean, let's look at the five stages. That's the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So essentially what I want to do is I just want to knock these suckers out of the park. Just want to get through this shit. And so one of the big question, the big headline here, does grief always follow the same order of stages? Not everyone will experience all 5 stages, and you may not go through them in this order. Oh, yeah, okay. I was going to say, is that just saying the same thing? But denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. What are we talking about depression here? What are we just talking about the blues? Are we talking about just kind of that loss of lust for life? There's no joie de vivre anymore. Is that what we're calling depression? Because that's never what I've called depression. I've called depression a lot of things. And the one that always sticks out in my mind, the one that I even just remember as a kid, is just this heavy stone right below my ribs. Just this the heaviest part of me was always right there. And that was a constant. So few things would sublimate that gravity. Seeing my cousins was one, and being married was the other. And not that's not binary. I shouldn't say it like that, but those are the two real sources I can point to as freeing myself from that gravity. So that's what I call depression. I don't know what this is supposed to insinuate, but we're not going to call it depression. We're going to call it sadness. We're going to call it being sad, because that's part of it. Depression is its own thing, and I don't know if people still exist that think depression isn't real. Huh? I don't know, man. Are people actually still like that? Yeah, I can say it's definitely changed a lot over the years. There have definitely been times it's been harder to function, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't. I don't think it's unreasonable to kind of acknowledge the fact that I probably well, I don't know. I don't know. Part of me wants to say I don't kind of feed the beast Uh, but I, I I think that's the thing. I think in the last couple years it's been much easier to feed that beast, of depression, and more of just kind of the it never used to have a actual feeling, um when I don't even know when the first time it would have happened. uh in the last year year or so. um I have started experiencing uh visceral, like an actual physical pain, uh over certain thoughts and fears and outcomes. And it I don't ever remember. I remember it feeling like a sudden splash of hot water right on like the inside of my stomach. Um, like that's kind of what I remember when I was younger, when I was high school, and or when I was in high school, and just kind of when I was a little more socially unsure of myself and a little more awkward. Yeah, thank God I'm not that anymore. Um, I I I remember that feeling like a splash of hot water. But this is just like a hammer fist to the gut. Um, it's yeah. I can't think of the. Thank God. I'm gonna stop trying to think of it. I don't remember the first time I felt it, but it. Yeah, I have started feeling like a genuine physical expression of of grief. I don't know, depression, whatever you're wanting to call it. Um, but that's something I think that is hard to overlook, is how easily grief becomes despair. And now that I've said that, I need to define those terms. Um, Grief is obviously the process of loss, by definition. Despair, um, I don't know how to define that. Um, a hopelessness. Um, I would say despair is dangerous. I would say despair is the point where then you are looking at either self harm or harming somebody else, or I think that is what I call despair. And I think what turns grief into despair is isolation. And I think what's so awful about that is I feel like being isolated or I don't know, that's not true. I I don't think being an isolated kind of person is incentivized. I think it's totally the opposite. But I there is still the cowboy, there is still the the desperado and that kind of to an extent that idea of manliness of yeah, okay, maybe you're not socially isolated, but your feelings got to be. You're not allowed to have those feelings. Not allowed to express those feelings. Or maybe it's not that you're not allowed to. I shouldn't say that. It's just that you don't get to, because it's not what men do. Men aren't emotional. Men aren't considerate or something. I don't know, but it's contemplative, fearful. I don't know. I don't know what is it that and that also that's I'm speaking entirely from my own experience. I can't even imagine uh that has nothing to do with gender. I think men and women are both just expected, where if we want to be normal, if you want to be the I don't know the word. Cog sounds diminutive, and it's not what I'm intending. Um, but to be normal, casual, just a regular, nothing stands out about you, just a face in the crowd. Um, I've lost my train of thought. Despair. I can't pretend to know what the female experience of being isolated by social circles and peers is like. I don't even know what it's like for men. I am admittedly quite the outlier in a lot of these statistics. But it's so strange that and maybe it's just kind of the maybe it's not even that. Maybe it doesn't even have anything to do with that. Maybe it's just that expression of sympathy and and uh, for lack of a better way to put it, just getting attention for your grief. Because I mean, that's, you need support. You're supposed to ask for help and for people to help you through the tough times. That's what we come together for. But I've got this thing. I've got this thing right here, and I can reach out to anybody on my contact list and say, "Hey, guess what? I'm having a bad day. Guess what? I lost my pet today. Guess what?" Anything. And it's instantaneous and superficial and impersonal and inauthentic, even when totally authentic. It's the nature of the platform. There's no context. There's no humanity in that connection. And getting 10,000 thoughts and prayers comments on a post isn't going to be the same as somebody being there to put their hand on your back and tell you it's going to be okay, even when it's not. You can't substitute that. You can't replicate that. And having the longest contact list in the world isn't going to help that pain. You need that genuine support, and you need real, true community. And that's not what this is. This is great. But it's not human. It's not empathy. It's not somebody crying with you. Again, even if they are, maybe FaceTime and stuff like that. Maybe things like that are changing all of that. But there is something driving people to despair. And when I find myself on the brink, it's whether or not there's anybody around me. And if there's not, that's when it hits 11, and that's when I don't know how to come down. And that's when things get frightening. I had an experience in April. I'm sorry. I had an experience in April where I had a complete mental breakdown and like a panic attack that lasted for like 30 hours. And so much of what kept amping it up was that I didn't have anybody to talk to. And that's not to say I didn't have people I could depend on. They literally weren't available. And they're not supposed to be at 3 o'clock in the morning when I I jump out of bed feeling like my bank accounts have been emptied. And as I sit there and look at my bank accounts and my money, I I I can't help the thought that I'm about to lose everything, that it's all going to be taken away. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where that came from, but it didn't go away. And who do you call at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday night? you know, uh, if you can call Jesus, that's great. I wish I could, but no, that that doesn't solve the problem up here. And I couldn't control the spiral, and uh, basically got to a point where I would have these episodes where maybe every 10 minutes I would just sob uncontrollably. Um, what it felt like was if I was standing at the ocean with my back against the beach and just, I know the only review I've gotten of anything is how shitty this webcam is, but whatever, we don't need to keep that page up. What it felt like was like I was standing in the ocean and the beach is to my back, and I'm looking out at the ocean, and just kind of feel the waves hitting the back of your legs, hitting your hips, all of that. And then all of a sudden you realize the water is at your ankles, and you just hear the swell of some monumental tsunami about to bowl you over. And so I would feel that. I would feel just like this wave coming up behind me, and I would just break down. I would just sob uncontrollably for 5 to 10 minutes. And then it would pass, and I'd be functional for a little bit, and I'd try to call some people. I would try to do whatever. And then it would happen again, and that went on for about 30 hours. There was a lot going on. I was about to have 7 teeth removed, and I was in just an insane amount of pain. I hadn't been eating, I hadn't been drinking, I hadn't been sleeping. I was the definition of a mess. And then you could not convince me I had money. You could not convince me the money in my account was safe. And I couldn't get it under control. And the medical approach to mental health is one of the worst things I've ever experienced. And that's not anything I need to go into. But the conclusion I came to was basically to take myself to the emergency room because I couldn't afford an ambulance to come pick me up. So I wasn't going to call 911. So what I was going to do, I was going to drive myself to the emergency room, and on the way, like, get a bottle of pills. Whatever, any pills, I don't know. Probably aspirin. And when I got there, just when I'm in the parking lot, take the bottle of pills, go in the front door and say, hey, literally just took a bottle of pills. This guy needs help. To which then I thought, that is legitimately crazy. And so I took myself to the urgent care and ultimately spent the night in a institution. That's not the right word, but I don't know what else to call it. Guidestone. I stayed the night at the Guidestone facility, and it was so completely different when I had a support network, when I could talk to people and tell them what was going on, and have them checking in on me, and have somebody know that I might be calling you in the middle of the night, to then having nobody. And that startling aloneness is dangerous. That's how I define despair. And I hope we can use these devices and these platforms as a better tool for actually letting people connect and letting people feel as though they're heard and they're cared for. And again, it's not that the intent isn't there. I have messages from people I haven't talked to in months, sending me well wishes and thinking of me, and that's not insignificant. But again, we are nothing but an expression of our senses. Hearing the empathy in someone's voice, feeling them comfort you, being close to you, physically touching you. Those are necessary experiences to the human experience. And reading it on a screen just is not human. It's sweet. It's thoughtful, but it does not sublimate my pain. which sucks because that's absolutely the intention. But there's just no humanity. So I'm thankful for those messages. I'm thankful for, I mean, of course, but that isn't what pulls you back from the edge. It's the people. It's the people around you. It's the people that love you and let you know you're loved. You're cared for. And how we provide that, I don't know. But and I mean, I'm not just talking about suicide and self-harm and stuff like that. I mean, I don't externalize my despair, but goddamn, people do. People do. And what do I know about a mass shooter's psychology? But depression is a reality for me. But despair is a active minefield. And I don't know if a lot of people feel that way. I don't know if that doesn't make sense to anybody else, but that's it's just how I see it. So does that get us through depression? Let's go back. Let's say that gets us through depression. Denial. Yeah, sure. I mean, beforehand, yeah. After the fact, it's kind of, I mean, you can't really deny it. It's reality kind of kicks you in the teeth, whether your mouth's open or not. I mean, your teeth are knocked out. So, yeah, check that one off too, I guess. Anger. Fuck cancer. I mean, how do you get angry at that? I mean, there's nothing you can do. It's the fact is, even if caught it weeks ago, if it's in her lungs, I mean, so yeah. I'll beat the shit out of cancer, sure, yeah. And bargaining, oh, believe me, I'd have taken that. I'd have taken that cancer for that cat. That poor thing had no way of understanding what was happening to it. All she knew was it got harder to breathe every day. I can understand that shit. I can rationalize it. I can get tools to outmaneuver it. But that cat just had to try to live every day. So when do I stop being angry at cancer? When does that stop? Yeah, do I check that off? When does that get a check? I have a funny feeling I'm going to be carrying this one for a while. Should I not? Am I not supposed to? Just be a, yeah. Just make peace. That this disease can just strike anything, anyone at any time. Just let it be. Whatever. I don't know what that is. But it doesn't produce anything. Being angry at cancer doesn't hurt cancer's feelings. So what? Do you carry it with you? Or do you pretend you don't carry it with you? I don't know how to do the latter. What are you talking about? Acceptance? I mean, didn't we kind of put that to bed with denial? I mean, once what's done is done, right? I mean, what other alternative is there? I mean, right? I mean, you just have to live with it. Ain't the same as liking it. Sure ain't loving it. Can easily hate it. But, I mean, it is what it is, right? I feel like I'm hung up on that for some reason. But I can't really articulate anything. Any words that come to mind are just kind of romantic platitudes that, deflate very, very, very easily. I also just I don't think that's part of it. I mean, like I said, that seems so out of place. I mean, I kind of I get the feeling it is like particularly to cross a threshold that like acceptance is, you know, maybe the first step of recovery or whatever. But that like to me that doesn't require energy. Does that make sense? Maybe I think that's what I'm so hung up on. It's just it is. It is what it is. It doesn't take admission on your part. It whatever the way it is, you exist in it. I mean, even if you're completely engaging in denial, I mean, the world moves on at its own pace, and I mean, acceptance is just existence. How long is this getting to be? There's no reason to make it an hour-long video over grief. And it's certainly not like I expect anybody to watch it. I make a 6-minute video genuinely being informative and thoughtful and productive. I can't get anybody to watch it. Like 6 minutes. A 6-minute informative exercise video. Literally nobody will watch this shit. So what am I doing with a 49-minute video talking about the nature of depression and the philosophy of despair? There is a sense of calm from having directed energies. And I know my biggest issue is how radioactive those energies can be when they're not directed. And the again, I don't know if this is a quarantine. I don't know if this is just the shitty world we live in. But it seems to me like it's harder than ever to find places to put your energy to direct something. Maybe it's just me. I'm certainly no sociologist or whatever would make sense in this conversation in that context. But there is a collectedness that similar to a support group is just kind of irreplaceable. And, you know, when I step away from this and try to figure out what I'm even capable of eating tonight, you know, those radioactive energies are just going to be all over the place, just searching for a distraction, searching for something else to cling on to, because all my mind can do is focus on my pain, and it's just going to keep reminding me that pain is there. And so I try to get distracted by anything, and it's hard. But that's the nature of a crisis. I feel like I don't have anything else to say, but I also don't feel like the intent was to sit down and say anything. We'll see if that bass comes up on my radio or my microphone. Stopping despair is simply pivotal. And again, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but for me, it is that isolatedness. It is that not loneliness is not loneliness. It's not the same. You can be lonely in a crowded room. There are probably like 10,000 songs that say that. Being isolated is when nobody's in the room. And that is not the same. Obviously, I've said a lot, about to hit an hour. I didn't plan to talk about my episode, but I did. Since I'm here, I suppose the next question is, do I upload it or not? Why or why not? Well, partially I did just make this video to channel a lot of my angst and anxiety and just pain I was feeling. And at the same time, this just seems like the thing people do. It seems like it would be more bizarre for me to not put all of this crap on social media and victimize myself and I shouldn't say victimize. That's not the word I intend to use. Get sympathy clicks. And that's not. That's not what I want Domino's memory to be. Not at all. I don't know if I think there's more or less to the 5 steps. I think denial and acceptance are kind of shit. And I think depression is not entirely accurate. Could I come up with 5? Well, we already said sadness instead of depression. Anger is perfectly legit. Bargaining is perfectly legit. So we kind of just need 2 more. And if we want 1 to kind of be more of a turning the corner from grief, I say we make it community seeking. Because I think a lot of this stuff, it's okay to do alone. I think it's necessary to do alone. But there has to be a point when you get help. And so, 1 more. Anger, bargaining, sadness. What can we substitute for denial? Because basically, they're not. I mean, it's the sense of rejection, rejecting this idea, the inability to assimilate what is proposed or transpiring, or whatever. I mean, just rejection, right? Because, I mean, again, like denial, if you're talking about a genuine psychological state of mind, that's one thing. That's similar to depression. That's not a symptom. That's a state of mind. And if that's what they're trying to go for with this 5 steps, then consistency, please. acceptance is reality itself. Bargaining is just that. So if we're talking about the event, I call it rejection, anger, bargaining, sadness, community seeking. That sounds a shitload better than whatever those 5 steps try to convey or propose. This video is entirely self-serving in nature. I don't have answers. I don't have any real direction. I'm not sure how this is ever supposed to get easier to deal with. And it just seems so flawed to me that our moments of happiness are what's so fleeting. And when you take it away, it's just all of that pain underneath it all. Just waiting to come back out. Do I just need better drugs? I don't know what the answer is, but there seem to be plenty of people who have that answer for themselves. And more power to you. I feel like I've gone beyond rambling. How do I sign this off? I'm really not sure. There's a part of me that just thinks, just boom, right there. But seems disingenuous to the topic. There's part of me that wants to believe that it gets easier as life goes on. And I have found that to be the opposite. I find it only gets harder. And so my hope for myself and people in my position is that I continue to surround myself with people who care and people who understand the significance of support. I ended up calling a crisis hotline this morning, not because I was in any self-harm state or anything like that. I had 2 hours before I could call the vet to make an appointment, and I was just losing my mind. If I had hair, I'd tear it out. And explained what was going on, my concerns, my paranoia, everything. And basically she said, well, you're in the worst part of making a cake. You got the ingredients, you got them all put together, and now it's in the oven, and now you just gotta wait till it's a cake. What's frightening in real life, though, is you don't always know what ingredients you put in. You don't always know what your cake is going to be. And sometimes that cake can be really, really hard to eat. And if you end up making a really big, bad cake, the more people who can help take a piece, the easier that cake becomes to get rid of.